The first glimpse. The galaxy prided itself on order. For millennia, the consortium of civilized species had catalogued, classified, and controlled every known race. To them, life was a ledger of predictable patterns. Strength could be measured, loyalty enforced, rebellion calculated. Nothing was left uncertain. That illusion broke when they found humanity. It began with a probe dispatched to a forgotten spiral arm of the Milky Way. The crew of the Silence of Harmony, a Xeran survey ship, expected to log another primitive world. The first scans of Earth, however, didn't match any record. The species crawling across the continents seemed weak by galactic standards. Their bones broke easily, their bodies were soft, their lifespans pitifully short. Yet the deeper the probe looked, the less sense it made. Humans were everywhere. They survived deserts, tundra, swamps, and oceans. They burned forests, built cities, poisoned their skies, yet thrived regardless. They had no unifying government, no singular philosophy, not even a standard method of communication. Every other intelligent species the consortium had encountered grew toward unity. Humans embraced division and conflict, and somehow grew stronger through it. The consortium classified new species in 3 categories: servile, neutral, or threat. Humanity didn't fit. They were fragmented, contradictory, and above all, curious. The first mistake was assuming humans wouldn't notice. The Xeran probe was designed to be invisible, yet within days, humans spotted it with crude telescopes. Within weeks, they had scrambled jets to chase it. One pilot, with nothing more than a metal aircraft and burning fuel, nearly collided with the craft deliberately. The Xerans recoiled in shock. What kind of species would hurl itself at the unknown without hesitation? Other races greeted new technology with awe-fear. Humans greeted it with questions. Where did it come from? How could they take it apart? Could it be weaponized? Could it be used to travel farther, faster? They were not cowed, nor reverent. They were hungry. Reports reached the Consortium High Council within cycles. The analysts argued endlessly. They are fragile, some insisted. One sweep of orbital fire would erase them. But the minority, the ones who had studied the footage, spoke with unease. Fragile things do not climb mountains for sport, one said. Fragile things do not throw themselves at storms, or dive into oceans they cannot breathe, another added. Fragile things do not look at the stars with such hunger. The room fell silent. For the first time in centuries, the consortium could not agree on a classification. Humanity was neither servile nor neutral. Threat was too simple a word. In their records, they gave Earth a temporary designation, unknown, Terran. It was meant as a placeholder, a bureaucratic formality until the Council decided what to do. Yet even as the ink dried on the record, the word unknown lingered like a shadow. To a civilization built on certainty, nothing was more terrifying than the things they could not understand. And humanity was, above all else, the terrifying unknown. The test of fire. The consortium did not tolerate mysteries. To them, humanity's refusal to fit into a neat category was an insult to galactic order. So they devised an experiment. If humans were truly as fragile as they appeared, a controlled crisis would expose their limits. The plan was simple: disable a fledgling orbital station that Earth had proudly launched into low orbit. The structure was little more than metal panels, pressurized tubes, and fragile solar wings. To the consortium, it was laughably primitive. A covert pulse from a disguised drone shut down its systems in seconds. Life support failed. Lights flickered out. Oxygen levels plummeted. The observers settled in, expecting panic. They had seen it before. Other species clawing at each other for survival when stripped of technology. Order breaking down into chaos. It would prove humanity no different than the rest. But what they saw was unsettling. Inside the failing station, the humans did not collapse. They moved. Fast. An engineer sealed hatches by hand, ignoring the warning alarms that told him his oxygen tank was already half empty. A pilot redirected emergency batteries, pulling power from navigation systems to keep air filters alive. A medical officer tore open storage kits, fashioning crude breathing masks from tubing not meant for lungs. The consortium analyst watched in silence. None of this was logical. No other species risked individual survival for the group. And yet, hey, one man gave up his oxygen so that two others could breathe longer. Another human, barely trained, crawled through a freezing, airless section of the station to reconnect wiring, his skin blistering in the cold. By the time he reached the panel, he collapsed, body spent. But the circuit came alive. The survivors cheered. The Xeran overseer recoiled at the sound. It wasn't the cold efficiency of a machine repairing itself. It was something primal, something that burned brighter the closer they edged to death. This is irrational, one analyst muttered. They embrace loss. They expect sacrifice. This behavior should destabilize them. Yet the opposite happened. Where one human fell, another stepped forward. The fragile station endured far longer than projected, patched together by stubborn hands and reckless courage. By the time Earth's ground control guided a rescue shuttle to dock, most of the crew was still alive. Barely, but alive. The consortium's conclusion should have been relief. Instead, unease spread. The report was marked with an unsettling line. Humans refuse collapse. They treat failure as a challenge. The more logical races could not grasp it. When numbers dictated survival was impossible, when probability spoke of defeat, humans acted anyway. They gambled with their lives as though loss were acceptable, as though victory could be pulled from sheer will. The test had been designed to expose weakness. Instead, it revealed something the consortium could not explain. Fragile bodies, irrational minds, reckless courage. And behind it all, a truth that sank like ice into alien hearts. Humans did not fear death. They feared only surrender. The revelation, the incident with the orbital station, should have ended the debate. The consortium expected proof of fragility. Instead, they found resilience. Yet some leaders still dismissed it as an anomaly. One station, they argued, is not a measure of an entire species. So they waited for more data. It came faster than expected. At the edge of a newly founded colony in the Jericho Void, trouble struck. Human settlers had claimed a barren world rich in metals, carving homes out of dust storms and jagged cliffs. To them, it was another frontier. To the galaxy, it was nothing more than rock. But to a rogue faction of pirates armed with stolen consortium weapons, it was a perfect target. The attack began with orbital strikes. The first settlement burned in hours. According to all projections, resistance should have ended there. Humans had no fleets, no planetary defenses, nothing but mining rigs and half-finished shelters. A logical species would have surrendered, begged for mercy, or fled into the wastelands. The humans did none of those things. When the pirates landed, they found themselves ambushed. Farmers wielded shotguns. Miners rigged explosives from their drills and fuel cells. Families dragged debris into choke points, creating traps. Even children hurled rocks at drones. Every civilian became a fighter. Every home a fortress. The pirates reported back in disbelief. They do not break. They fight. Even when outnumbered, even when fire rains from the sky, they do not yield. The battle raged not for hours, but weeks. Each raid met new defenses. Each victory for the attackers cost them dearly. The humans changed tactics constantly, adapting, improvising, turning weakness into unexpected strength. A water pipeline became a trap. A radio tower became a sniper's perch. A dying settler detonated himself beneath an enemy walker, destroying both. Consortium observers recorded it all. The longer they watched, the deeper their unease grew. This behavior is unnatural, one scholar whispered. Statistical models collapse when applied to them. They thrive on loss. They weaponize desperation. Another added, it is worse than irrational. It is unpredictable. That word, unpredictable, spread through the council chambers like a contagion. No species had ever defied the models before. The consortium's power was built on predictability, knowing outcomes before they occurred, maintaining control through certainty. But humans shattered certainty with every reckless charge, every last stand, every suicidal act that somehow birthed victory. At last, the pirates abandoned the Jericho Void, humiliated. A colony that should have been erased in a single day had endured weeks of war. The consortium's analysts wrote their final assessment with trembling digits. Humans do not calculate survival as others do. They fight even when defeat is certain, and in doing so, they make defeat uncertain. It was a revelation more chilling than any weapon. For the first time in centuries, the consortium faced a variable they could not measure. And in that unknown, they found fear. The fear of tomorrow. The Battle of the Jericho Void sent shockwaves across the consortium. Pirates had been defeated not by fleets or advanced defenses, but by civilians armed with mining tools and desperation. For the first time in living memory, the models had failed. The High Council convened in panic. 12 species gathered in the crystalline chamber of His Prime, their voices rising in overlapping tones. "They are too dangerous," hissed a Calaith delegate, mandibles clattering. "Exterminate them before they spread." "Extermination may not be possible," countered a Ziran strategist. "If a colony of farmers can resist armed raiders for weeks, imagine what billions could achieve with preparation." "Then quarantine them," another shouted. "Seal their system. Forbid trade. Forbid travel. Let them suffocate alone." But the arguments circled endlessly. Every proposal returned to the same problem: unpredictability. No one could guarantee what humans would do next. And that uncertainty was the one thing the consortium could not tolerate. Meanwhile, Earth remained blissfully unaware of the fear it inspired. The survivors of Jericho Void buried their dead, rebuilt their shelters, and planned their next expansions. Colony ships were being prepared, not for conquest, but for exploration. To humans, the stars were not battlefields, they were promises. New homes, new challenges, new horizons. The consortium knew better. They had seen the way humans reacted under pressure. They had seen fragility turn into fire. They had seen weakness transform into defiance. The more they studied, the less they understood. And the less they understood, the deeper their fear grew. Reports poured in, humans climbing mountains simply to say they had done it, diving into oceans they could not breathe, flinging themselves into the void of space with fragile ships and untested technology, always reaching, always risking, always stepping into the dark when no one else dared go. A Ziran philosopher summed it with trembling clarity: where we seek safety, they seek challenge. Where we retreat from the unknown, they walk into it. Where we cling to certainty, they embrace chaos. They are not a species to be measured. They are a force we cannot define. They are the terrifying unknown. The phrase spread like wildfire through consortium records. It became the designation for Earth, stamped in the central archives. Unknown, Terran, high threat potential. Not because of what humans had done, but because of what they might one day do. In hushed corridors and secret reports, aliens spoke of humanity not with contempt, but with dread. They did not fear human weapons, or numbers, or even technology. They feared the human refusal to surrender. They feared the spark that grew brighter in darkness. They feared what might happen when that spark reached the wider galaxy. On Earth, colony ships launched, engines blazing, carrying men and women into the stars with hope in their hearts and courage in their bones. In the council chambers, the decision was left unresolved. To strike, to contain, to ignore, all seemed equally dangerous. The future was no longer certain. And for the first time in the long, ordered history of the consortium, certainty itself had been broken. The unknown was coming, and it bore the name of humanity.